Oh, this whole saga around Coutts and Co. and banking scandal around debanking people and cancelling people's accounts because of their political opinions is escalating, and it's not really looking too good for Coutts and Co. and NatWest. And we've discovered some new stuff about the people in charge of Coutts and Co., the bosses of NatWest. This is about Dame Alison Rose, who is the CEO of NatWest, and NatWest obviously own and control Coutts and Co. Coutts and Co. were the bank that cancelled Nigel Farage. Initially, they came and said, "Oh, it's because he doesn't have enough money. We're such an elitist bank, and we have a threshold." Then we discovered, oh, that wasn't the problem, because Nigel Farage got in touch and forced them to release their memo and the report on him and basically his file. And we discovered, as we reported yesterday, that that wasn't the reason. The reason was because they have a reputation committee, or whatever it's called, and they decided that Nigel Farage has political views and opinions that they don't like. So they decided to cancel him on that reason. But this story is about Dame Alison Rose, the fact that a lot of coincidental events occurred at the same time. So the BBC were accused of becoming a mouthpiece for the banking industries and Coutts and Co. Because you had the editor, BBC editor, coming out to essentially spread lies on behalf of Coutts and Co., saying, "Well, Coutts and Co. told me this, that the reason they cancelled Nigel was because of money." But then we discovered something interesting. So first things first, this is the BBC's Correspondents' Charity Dinner. And this is a lavish dinner, and it was at the Langham Hotel in London, a very, very nice hotel with the Union flag and the European Union flag. Not really sure why. We voted to leave. But during this lavish dinner that the BBC hosts with the gravy train and everything else, you had a lot of powerful people attending. And you can see this is the exact photo from the other night. Sitting by Simon Jack's side. Simon Jack was the BBC editor who tweeted the anti-Nigel Farage post defending Coutts and Co. Sitting next to Simon Jack happened to be Dame Alison Rose, the chief executive of NatWest. Other guests described them as laughing and joking together during the meal. Now, nothing wrong with it so far, right? And we're not accusing them of directed plotting. But coincidentally, the next morning, Simon Jack posted his anti-Nigel Farage tweet, acting as the mouthpiece for the bank. And the interesting thing about this whole story is what happened next. Because since this has now come out, there's been a lot of journalists asking questions from both the BBC and the bank about what happened that night. What sort of discussions did they cover? Considering when they had the dinner, that was when Nigel Farage had already announced that he's been cancelled by Coutts and Co. So imagine you're Simon Jack or Dame Alison. Surely, you're just having a dinner, you're having chit-chat. Surely certain topics will come up. Current affairs, you know. So what did you do today? Oh, I cancelled Nigel Farage. It will come up, right? But when they were asked, both the BBC and NatWest declined to comment when the Telegraph asked them whether Mr. Jack and Dame Alison had what they had discussed during the meal. Now, Dame Alison has now come under pressure to resign from MPs in Parliament, including people like Jacob Rees-Mogg. But the fact that they've declined to comment, they didn't come out to say, no, they didn't discuss that, or no, they didn't plot. They took the fifth, as the Americans would say. They just said, no comment. So that just makes it sound dodgier. So even if they're innocent, it just makes it sound dodgy. Declining to comment instead of just denying it. That's the whole thing. So clearly, they must have had a chit-chat, right? But the fact that, coincidentally, it was the next morning that you had Simon Jack very, very comfortably, with so much confidence, coming out to actually say, I know, and I've been told by Coutts and Co. that this is the reason. It did seem like a full-on briefed session that he knew exactly what he was talking about. It wasn't just like a normal journalist finding out, like asking a question from someone and say, oh, this is a quote from this person, I asked him a question. That's not what he did. He was explaining it, like educating us on behalf of the Coutts and Co. It's like he put so much effort into those tweets, to explain it to us, like being defensive about it. So there is definitely something going on between the BBC and these banks, and we have to keep asking questions. We have to keep exposing them. And yes, Dame Alison Rose, I think it's time for you to look for another job. Maybe not in the banking industry, because your reputation is going to be completely destroyed very soon. We're going to continue to put pressure on the establishment. Subscribe to the channel. I'm Mahyar Tousi, and we are the media.